Afternoon, folks. You have made it to the end of your week. We are on Friday. Congratulations. It is very, very, very good to have you here with me to discuss some hobby nightmares and to get you through your Friday night, to make sure that if you are drinking, you're going to the pub, you are having some dinner, you're chilling out with friends, or you're on your way to do something nice, that you can have a little listen to me rant on about hobby nightmares. And if you are working over the weekend, thank you very much for making sure that the rest of us can have a nice, relaxing weekend. We do appreciate it very much, even though we don't tell you very often. Especially when we're shouting at you when you're working in retail. But there we go. So, if you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. And all that fun stuff. Let's get into it, shall we? Because we have a lot to go over for today's hobby nightmares. Our first one is from Vlad. Hey North. Hope you're doing well, buddy. You've been a lurker on the Discord for a while now. Love your work. No, don't be a lurker, man. Say hello. I'm Vlad, and I've got a particularly awkward situation that I saw in a Games Workshop in the UK a few years ago. Alright. So it's 2016. This wasn't my Games Workshop, was it? The dates are lining up. So it's 2016, and I'm in my local Games Workshop. I was there painting a squad of Space Marines for a Kill Team style tournament that the store was planning on running in the near future. I can't remember what year Kill Team relaunched, but it was before then. Okay, I think it was 2016, towards the end, I think, if I remember correctly. The guys who are also in there are generally having a good time, painting, playing games, and chatting to the store manager, who is really awesome too. He's busy typing up his in-store tournament and pitching it to some of the guys who are there and getting people to sign up. When the door opens, and in walks a guy who basically kills the atmosphere stone dead. For the purpose of this story, we'll call him Mike. It's always Mike or Dave with you guys. I know I used Dave once before for like a very unfortunate person who was, I think it was like the very first hobby story that I told from my time at Games Workshop. But yeah, he's always poor Dave, and Mike's out there. If you're a Dave or a Mike, I can only apologise. Moving on. Now, I would say Mike looks the type of scrawny nerd who you would see on a game's random character generator. Fun fact, before I read on about this, every single character I make in a video game that looks like me is essentially the starter character. Like, literally, like, the Old Republic, but I used to play Old Republic with Steady. Like, I literally made a character who looked pretty cool. I thought really looked like me. I was really happy. It looked more of a blocky version of me, you know, because of the graphics, but I was like, yeah, really cool. And BioWare released several trailers that literally had my character doing stuff as the standard Jedi template, and I was just like, FFS, are you joking right now? Like, what is going on? Anyway, Vlad says, I wouldn't say he was skinny, but more gangly. Now, Mike was infamous in the store for literally just talking about nothing else but Eldar, and he also had no concept of social boundaries or personal space. First thing he does is come in, says hello to the store manager, and brings his case full of models to one of the empty tables. It looks like he's there to play a game. He gets out the models and places them on the table, and then spent 10 minutes breathing down everybody's necks about what they were painting, building, and I mean literally breathing down our necks. It's hard to concentrate because he clearly hasn't brushed his teeth in a while, and he clearly hasn't washed. Oh my god. Please, please. Like, if you've ever done this in a Games Workshop, stop. Stop. Get some help. Go. I start to lose sympathy for people when they're... I don't know, man. I'll get into this later. Eventually, he skulks back to his table, to his models, and he starts sort of eyeing them at ground level, table level. And he's particularly focused on his... To what we found out, was his Farseer model, and he's just sitting there and staring at this model very, very intently. This goes on for about 20 minutes, with no sort of communication from his end, and admittedly, we kind of forgot about him after a while. However, on my table, where me and one of my friends were painting, he dropped the model onto the floor. Luckily, it didn't break, but he leant down to pick it up, and I just hear... Let me just check what time we're on. Okay, we're on 5 minutes, good. And I just hear, Oh, what the fuck? My friend gets up, looking absolutely disgusted, and kind of points in the general direction of Mike. I'm not going to want to read this on with my tea in my hand, am I? I'm not going to want to read this anymore, am I? I came over to his side and looked, and Mike was just there, jerking his gherkin in public, in a store. He was trying to hide it, and was clearly not thinking at the same time, but it was actually grim, and as immediately as I had the image of this gangly, nurgling and Slanesh enjoyer jacking it, burning into my brain, I, without thinking, said, "Oh, what the fuck, dude?" Sorry. It sounds like an episode of like a sitcom or something. Anyway, the atmosphere in the store just kind of died instantly, and I had that momentary embarrassment of saying something out loud at the wrong time, and everybody, including the manager, looking at me. I said, "It's not me, it's Mike," and pointed at him. At this stage, he must have realised what had happened and basically jumped out of his own skin, had pulled up his trousers, and basically started hastily packing away a few models, and more or less fled from the store. To which everyone had kind of just kept quiet and watched awkwardly. The manager went over to his table to check out what had happened, and it turns out he had let out his bodily fluid onto the scenery table and was... Oh no, dude. He was at... as well as below the table, and it was also on the floor. Oh no. That poor manager, man. We're not paid enough. We're not paid enough. We're not paid enough. What was probably the worst part was that he left his Farseer model on the table, and the evidence of his crime kind of covering it like some grim signature. How none of us managed to see this before he was caught still eludes me. Needless to say, the manager was absolutely shocked, livid, and disgusted. He basically immediately shut the store for the rest of the day, and from what I heard, he ended up just getting the whole place deep cleaned because he was worried that this wasn't the first time that he had done it. Yeah, I mean, you've got to be really careful. You've got to be really, really careful. STIs, you know, blood diseases, HIV, pregnancy. You know, you never know. Like, if a girl's sitting at that table and she's, like, putting her hands on things and then... Dude, you've got to... You cannot be too careful. I would literally be going in there... I'd be killing it with fire. I'd literally get a flamethrower, like disinfectant in like a thrower type weapon, and just like douse the store. Mike was never seen again at that store. Yeah, because he was banned, probably, like literally. And because we were never really friends with him, we had no idea where he lived. So he must have just died of embarrassment and fled. For the next month or so after that, we basically just completely stayed away from that corner table, and it was eventually removed by the manager altogether. I haven't been back in the store in a few years, so I hope that the new table that probably is in there now hasn't been christened the same way. But yeah, that's my story. Have a good one, mate, Vlad. Oh my god. Oh, Jesus. That's not a good start to the day. Not the only story I've heard of that ilk. It just shocks me that the kind of stuff that GW managers have to put up with. I know there are certain Tool Games Workshop managers out there who aren't really nice, you know. I know that. I worked for one. But at the same time, they don't half put up with some shit. Like, really, really do. Alright, John Doe says, so you know it's going to be good if the person's calling themselves John Doe. Hi North, John here. We have a hobby group here in my city, playing 40k, Age of Sigmar, and pen and paper RPGs regularly. However, there is one 16-year-old, 14 at the time, playing AdMech in 40k at the store, alright? I do not mean to talk bad about the kid, especially since AdMech is not an easy faction to play. One, good, and two, correct. And all in all, he seems to be a fine chap. But there is just one thing that grinds my gears. I played against him once, when I was new to the game, and he told me about many, many, many things I did not know that the faction could do. For instance, putting Sicarians in Deep Strike, I get it, they're called infiltrators. Activating the faction buffs to individual units that usually can't benefit from them multiple times and much, much more, including a very questionable way of handling splash damage. Yes. I will go back to this in a minute, because I played a similar game to this a few weeks ago, but I will go back to this in a minute. Now, I thought I've read the codex and the rules pretty thoroughly, and I've never noticed this way of playing, taking everything he said as rule knowledge from someone more experienced. So it's no surprise that he absolutely wiped the floor with me. After I thanked him for the nice game, he told me that he had never lost a game as AdMech. In the following weeks, I did my own research and realised that he actually has no idea what the rules actually say. Not one special rule he mentioned during our game actually exists. He just twisted them to fit. All of this doesn't really irk me. It wasn't if it wasn't for the fact that he still gloats about this and his win streak whenever we talk. He is under the impression that the Castellan robots are the best units. When I asked him to elaborate, he just shrugs, explains another made-up rule, and tells me that he still has not lost a single game. It doesn't infuriate me, I just feel a bit disappointed or something. Okay, so what I will say about AdMech is that I played a game against a guy, one of my friends, a few weeks ago, who doesn't cheat. Like, he's just a real stickler for the rules. And AdMech do have a lot of these ridiculous rules that allow them to do some pretty insane stuff. They are the worst codex in the current rules. Not because their rules are bad, but because of what they do to the game. Every game I have played against AdMech, my turn is about 20 minutes long, if that. If that. And the opponents can go on for like an hour or more. That is how many rules are in the codex, and how much checking needs to be done to make sure that AdMech are being played correctly in the current edition. They are the quintessential example of what I would term an autistic army. They're an army where you have to have an eidetic memory to be able to play properly, or be really nerdy and stubborn. And neither of those two things add up to a very good game, in my opinion. They add up to a really slow, pondering, annoying game that, they can even... I think there are certain rules where they can interrupt your turn, which is a big no-no for me, unless it's a reactions type of thing. I hate rules that let somebody interrupt your turn. Sorry, mate, you've had your hour of playing with your toy soldiers on your own, whilst I stand here like a muppet. I'm now having my turn, thank you. I'm not allowing you to... I've only done it once. I've only done it once, where I've said, look, I'm not allowing you to play that rule. Sorry, you're not interrupting my turn. You're not doing it. You've just had an hour. I've been standing here for an hour. More. Watching you do your shit. I'm done. I'm out. You're not playing that rule. It was a really small rule. It wasn't a big one. I'm saying, you're not playing that rule, dude. I'm having my turn. It wasn't in combat. I'm shooting at you. I don't care. I'd rather stop playing now and forfeit the game. Because, I'm not sitting here for an hour every turn whilst you do your shit, when my turn takes 10-15 minutes. It's a 1,000-point game. What are we doing here, right? So, yeah, AdMech are just one of those armies. They're just one of those armies. Not a well-written codex at all. The other day, he played against Tyranids and explained his Forge World dogmai, to his opponent. I overheard the entire thing, and again, he just mixed and matched parts of all Forge World rules into his playstyle. Dense cover when at a certain distance, saving throw for mortal wounds, and this and that, and once again, the dreaded Sicarians in Deep Strike. He won again, obviously. I'm not convinced he cheats intentionally. I think he does, dude. But I just really dislike cheating and flexing at the same time, intentionally or not. So I'm planning to ask him where he got his rules from in the codex. Not accusing him of cheating, rather asking him if I overlooked something. I did not. Although, I don't want to be that guy who cries about the 16-year-old kid cheating. Yeah, I get what you mean, dude. I get what you mean. Just don't play him again. Just don't play him again. The guy will run out of opponents eventually. Maybe just don't play him again. Just stay. And if he asks you to play, be very honest with him and say, look, dude, just between me and you, I know a lot of the rules you're using on your army's rules, or your mix and matching rules and stuff, and I don't mind that. Maybe you're just getting it wrong, but that combined with your gloating, even when you're getting your own rules wrong, means I don't want to play against you. I'm really sorry. I've got to be honest with you, right? That's all. That's all you say. And if he wants to bitch and moan and whine and complain and rend his garments, that is completely up to him, dude. Just stay away from him, don't play him, walk away, And if he wants to play you again, explain in private, if you can, why you don't want to play him again. Anyway, that's what I would do. Dr. Rotwang says, and Dr. Rotwang has been in the comments or the chat for the last few videos, so hello if you're in the chat. He says, hello North. Thank you for sharing everybody's stories on your channel. It's great to hear that so many others have had similar hobby experiences, both good and bad. Plus, being able to listen to them whilst at work, waiting for the proverbial paint to dry, has been a godsend. Thank you very, very much. Cheers, man. I know how much shitty times it can be had at work. Don't worry. Today, I thought I would share a pair of stories from my own years in the hobby. If you choose to share them, feel free to split them up if need be. Okay, I might do one now and one another day, but we'll see. In particular, I wanted to share the 2 times that confrontations in the hobby store almost resulted in physical violence. Ooh, these are good ones. Thankfully, quick reactions and cooler heads prevailed in each case, and no one was hurt. Nevertheless, there were some tense moments around the gaming table. The first story happened a number of years ago at my friendly local game store. The store ran dedicated game nights throughout the week, so those that played the game could coordinate on a night to play. So, 40k night, fantasy night, magic night, etc. You get the idea. This particular interaction took place on a historical gaming night. Oh, historical players are the... Right, yeah. Yeah. 40k players are like, yeah, pretty childish at times, but whenever historical players lose their rag, I've seen some shit in my time, man. We were in the back, setting up a table and chatting with one of the other regulars. We'll call him Coach. I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but in comes one of the pseudo neckbeards who had recently been seen hanging around the store. We just usually saw him pop in, buy a few models, maybe ask a question or two of whoever was playing, and then he would leave. Now, I say pseudo neckbeard because we haven't ever really talked to him before. But he did have the neckbeard look. You know the look. Scruffy, long trench coat, nerdy t-shirt, questionable hygiene, you know the type. This time he comes in, pulls up a chair and sits down at the table where we are setting up. Normally, this is not an uncommon occurrence in the store, as plenty of people will hang about for a bit if they have the time while a game is going on. He introduced himself, and for the life of me, I cannot remember his name, but we'll call him Necky, as he was about to prove himself as his namesake. Necky was a university student who had been in town for the summer on an internship at one of the local big businesses. He was looking for people to play games with, hence why he was frequenting the store. We chatted with him for a bit, making polite conversation as our game was getting underway. As our game progressed, he and Coach continued talking. I'm not sure if Necky thought he was amongst like-minded individuals, since it was Historicals night, or just read the room wrong, but he began bringing up more and more extreme right-wing talking points in an attempt to engage in some sort of political debate. That if this dude slams his hands on the tables and goes, Jews, am I right? You know, like, I'm just gonna, like I shit you not, guys, right? Well, at one time, and I can say this joke, it's not really a joke, but I can say this now, because, like, technically, when I was in the US, I didn't realise, technically, I converted to Judaism without realising, because I was at a Reformist church, or a Reformist synagogue, and went through all of the training and stuff, and signed a few things, and I got something in the mail the other day that was just like, oh, welcome to the family, you are now this, and we need to get you blood tests, and all this stuff, and I'm like, what? So, I can say Jew jokes now, hooray! No, I won't. But, like, I'm literally out for a pint with one of my friends, my friend John, a glorious beardy bastard. We're out there, and you know, we're having a few jars, setting the world to rights and all that. Anyway, one of John's friends walks in from historical reenactment, and he does like Dark Age reenactment, he like Viking stuff and stuff. Anyway, one of his friends walks into the bar, and I'm standing there with John, and John says, "Oh, this is Dave. You know, this is Dave." And this was actually Dave. He said, "Oh, this is Dave." And this is North. And I said, "Oh, yeah, all right, Dave, how's it going?" He said, "Yeah, you're all right, mate." It's like a small man, you know. Small man shakes my hand and goes, "All right, mate." Shakes my hand and goes, "You're not Jewish, are you?" And at this point, I'm like, I looked at John. John's looking at me like, what? I look back at him and go, no. And he says, all right, okay, fair enough. And carries on shaking my hand. And the rest of the conversation went completely normal. And eventually he's like, all right, lads, see you later. And we're like, okay, bye now. And we turn around to look at each other and we're like, did I hear that right? And he's like, yeah, you did. And ever since then, if something weird happens or awkward happens, we look at each other and just go, you're not Jewish, are you? like, straight away. I wish I'd have met him now, because I'd be like, yes, I am, shalom, you know, and like actually shaking his hand. Anyway, I had to lick his hand for good measure, you know, it's like, oh yeah, shalom. Anyway, back to the story. At one point, he declared himself a sovereign citizen, stating that you don't have to pay taxes because the government has no right to tax you in the first place. And that's how the government works. Isn't how it's actually supposed to work according to the US Constitution, okay? So yeah, he goes completely down the far right-wing nutjob rabbit hole. I've heard left-wing people say that as well, though. I've heard left-wing people say that as well. But we'll just take your word for it. Let's say it sounds like he's saying other things. Anyway, the most hilarious part of this scenario that is unfolding while we are attempting to play our game is that he picked the 3 worst people who frequent the store to attempt to have these conversations/debates with. I was working as a tax accountant at the time for one of the big 5 accounting firms. Coach is a high school track coach and social studies teacher who taught the advanced placement US history and government courses. I did that too! And my old roommate is an attorney. And not just your average ambulance chaser attorney, but he is a federal attorney for the US government. This guy's just literally walked in. He's literally just walked. He's like that guy. Have you ever seen that meme of the guy being hit by like 1,000 arrows all at once? Like, he's literally that dude, just taking that one step forward, and all the arrows just go into him. Normally, Neki is the kind of guy you just ignore and he goes away. But I think the teacher in Coach got triggered, and he proceeded to try and turn this into a teachable moment. Yeah, seen this happen before. Coach did most of the refuting of his crazier argument, and my roommate and I would chime in from time to time with relevant case law or regulations whilst continuing our game. Neki proceeded to get angrier and louder to the point of becoming a nuisance, at which point my roommate asked him to please leave us alone, that we were trying to play a game and we weren't interested in the particular brand of crazy he was selling. Oh, that's going to work. That's going to set him off. This was the wrong move at this point, as Neki is so frustrated with all his core world belief being refuted and gutted that he ends up taking a swing at my roommate. Wow. Specifically, he tried to sucker punch him as Neki was standing behind and to the side of him. Bitch move. Thankfully, he missed, as my roommate bent over the table to move some models. My roommate immediately rounded on Neki with a very loud and firm, "Do not assault me, sir." That's either the most Chad thing that anyone's ever said to somebody who's trying to assault them, or he's just literally a lover and not a fighter. And then got the store owner, who with the help of another regular, a local police sergeant, escorted Neki outside. Neki didn't get permanently banned from the store, as we would have liked, though he was banned from any of the other open gaming nights and events. So we saw him in passing, usually leaving the store before a game night or tournament was about to get underway. After that summer, we never saw Neki again. This is probably for the best. Yeah, it shows you how much of a special dude this guy is when he's coming back to the store even though he was banned from most of the events. Do you know what I mean? I will say, a lot of people who identify in extreme politics, they don't really believe in what they're saying. Rather than, I'm not trying to like dissuade people or get onto people or annoy people or belittle people. What I mean is that they have serious issues in their own personality, and they're filling those up with these extremist views, whether it be left or right. And when you call those things into question in front of them, the reason why they take it so personally is because you're not just taking away their political views and having a political discourse with them. you're actually attacking the very foundation of who they are, because they have like a 40% capacity personality, and the other 60% is taken up by their extremist views. If you start attacking that, then you're literally cutting them off the knees, and you're forcing them to confront how much of a small-minded person or small personality person they really are. And that can be terrifying for some people. And most of those people will react in an extreme way when their extreme views are brought into question. If you don't believe me, Islamic State, go and look it up. But these guys, you know, people like that, they will literally react with violence and extreme reactions if you go after their old point of view, even if you're doing it in a very caring, teaching, methodical way of saying, look, this doesn't work and this is why. That's because they will literally go after you and say, look, that's not right. And their minds will break, their minds will just explode, because they're like, you're now attacking me personally. You're attacking my personality. You're attacking my inner being, not just the beliefs that I have. Those who can think critically, those intelligent people who can actually step outside of that, have their political beliefs on one side. That can always change, but this is what they believe, and they have their personality on another side. They aren't the same thing. And extremists, you will find quite a lot of the time. I've learnt this as a history teacher, as a social studies teacher in the US, as someone who makes a study of reading on group psychology and things like that, trying to understand why people make the certain decisions that they do in 40k or in settings or in historical contexts. This is how people act. It's scary, but it's how people act. And we've just seen a really good example of it here in the hobby store. I'm going to read the second story because I think it sounds quite interesting. He says, but before I start the second story, I need to make one thing perfectly clear. The main instigator of this story, the main antagonist, for lack of a better phrase, is 100% not responsible for what happened. Okay, this sounds really interesting. Okay, is not responsible for what happened. The fault and blame lies with others in the store at the time who ignored the situation. But I need to first state, and firmly, that he is in no way at fault for the fallout that occurred. Let me be crystal clear that I am not blaming him for any part of this scenario. Okay, I think you've made that clear now. We've gone over it 3 times. He did not understand the issue at hand or the situation that occurred, and you will see why shortly. Alright. I'm betting that the guy in this story has like some sort of mental instability or something. Anyway, I was at my friendly local gaming store for 40k night. The same store that I was in the first incident that we just read about. It is important to note that the store in question, there are loads of subdivisions. The store is usually 3 separate stores, all in the same strip mall, where walls were knocked out and pass-throughs made as other businesses closed, and the game store expanded into the next shop over a few times. Okay, cool. So, you cannot clearly see from one end of the store to the other. That is a hazard, a health hazard. Isn't that illegal? I think it is in the UK. You have to be able to see everywhere in the store that you can reasonably. And whilst you can get to the gaming tables from multiple parts of the store, the gaming tables can only see who is coming from one specific angle. There were several of us back at the gaming tables that day playing some various sized games of 40k. At one point, one of the tables was one of our long-time regulars. We'll call him Abaddon. Abaddon always played Chaos in every game and setting. Warhammer Fantasy, 40k, Battlefield Gothic, Epic, you name it. Chaos was his jam. So calling him Abaddon is quite appropriate. He even had an amalgamation of Abaddon and his own name as his screen name on our local store web forum, but I can't use that as it will definitely identify him. Okay. Abaddon was deep in the middle of a larger 40k game this evening, and it was a tense one. Lots of bragging rights at stake in our local campaign. One important thing to note about Abaddon is that he is a career army NCO, a sergeant at this point in time. As such, Abaddon has seen more than his share of combat, having had multiple tours to Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places around the globe. He had some issues as a result, who wouldn't, but manages them well with the help of his family, wife, therapy, etc. However, when this incident occurred, Abaddon had just gotten back from Iraq a short while earlier and was looking to get in some games to blow off some steam. While we were playing, whooping it up and having a good time, a family of regulars comes into the store. This family consists of a mother, a father, and adult son. Mum was an RPG gamer and an aging flower child. Known many of them in my time. I don't know if it was because society had diminished her worldview, or if she was just burnt out from a lot in life, but she was quite unpleasant. Nowadays, we would describe her as a Karen. Just cold, judgmental, and unpleasant to be around. Dad was a wargamer, in addition to being an RPG player. He was an orc player who sometimes played Space Wolves, and he was every bit the stereotype of both kinds of those players. Oh no. You know the guys. Loud, gruff, long grey hair, full bushy beard, sometimes trimmed into a goatee, suspenders or overalls, and occasionally yelling, "Wah!" very loudly. He's the kind of guy who would not quite be out of place at a Wild West recreation or monster truck rally. To be fair to him, his appearance and mannerisms aside, I actually played against him a couple of times at a couple of tournaments, and he was an okay enough guy. Then there was the son. Their son was a grown adult in his late 20s or early 30s, and he is very autistic. To be clear, he is not non-verbal, and I think actually quite smart in some areas, but very low functioning. When we would see him in the store, there was lots of loud humming. He had some physical tics, and he would walk around talking to himself, mostly in quoted lines from various sci-fi and fantasy TV shows and movies. Their son collected action figures, of which this store sells both old and new. So it was a bit of a family outing for them to each get to go and buy something for their respective hobbies. As parents are wont to do, they often use the store like a babysitting service. I mean, yeah, I know they want to do that, but it's not right, man, or clever. Don't do it if you're a parent. It's horrible. They never left their son there, but the moment they got there, they were off looking at their own things, leaving him to wander around unsupervised until they were ready to leave. Being gamers in a game store, sometimes this took some time, and whilst the parents were digging in their respective shelves and displays, he would eventually get bored and proceed to try to amuse himself. I hope he doesn't amuse himself in the same way we saw in the earlier parts of the video. This is exactly what happened on this occasion. We were all deep into watching the climactic final round of Abaddon's game, so no one noticed when the son entered the gaming area. We were all riveted on the outcome of the game, as this young man came right up behind Abaddon. Oh no. Oh no. He waited a moment or two, watching the game in silence. Just as Abaddon rolled his Demon Prince's attack dice, the son took a deep breath and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Mr. Worf, fire photon torpedoes." At the top of his lungs. Abaddon reacted exactly as you think a guy who just got home from combat would. He ducked, whirled around on his heel, and came up fist clenched and swinging. Thankfully, Abaddon has very good situational awareness and quick reflexes, as his fist stopped about 1 inch from the son's nose. The son then proceeds to break out into the loudest giggling laughter I have ever heard, and actually has to sit down in a chair because he was laughing so hard. Abaddon, on the other hand, looks like a guy who just dodged an incoming mortar round. Wow, good on him for reacting in time. He takes a long deep breath, pauses for a moment, and starts to go over to where the mother and father are shopping away blissfully, ignoring their son and his antics. Thankfully, I and another regular got between them before Abaddon, the army sergeant, came out to rip these two parents a new one. Instead, we got him to come outside and with us to have a smoke and calm his nerves. Once our smokes were done, we then walked Abaddon across the street for a pint at the tavern to cool down before we went back to the game. While having our beers, Abaddon told us some of the stuff about his last tour that I should not repeat here in the presence of an unknown audience. Good on you, man, thank you. But suffice to say, there was a reason he reacted the way he did, and with what he went through, it was entirely justified. By the time we got back to the store, the family had cleared off and the game resumed. ending with Abaddon's demon prince triumphantly beheading Commander Farsight. While we were across the street, the other 40k guys let the store owner know what went down, and he had a talk with the parents. They came back as a family after that, and still frequent the store to this day. But the parents actually keep an eye on their son now, rather than letting him have free reign in the place. Well, good on them too. Well, this is a good end to the story. Thankfully, I've never seen physical violence break out at a game, but I know that it does happen. These two incidents were by far the closest I've ever seen, and they thankfully had good outcomes. Cheers, Dr. R. Dude, those are really good outcomes. Thank you very much for sharing those. We normally get these nightmares that end in everybody walking away with the old place burning down around them. But thank you for sharing those. Those are brilliant. And thank you for sending in your hobby nightmares this week, guys. I love you all so much. Love you all a long time. Please keep coming back to the channel. Please keep pushing the channel. Please keep subscribing if you can. I just saw on the video that Death Guard's head just got exploded and his arm started twitching. That was very funny. And yeah, I might be on over the weekend streaming some more. We'll see. But I am now waiting for Dark Tide with bated breath. I think I'm going to be there on launch day. So that's going to be really, really, really cool. Love you all. Have a wonderful weekend. And I'll speak to you very, very soon. Have a good one. See ya.